Rewind and Digress is a FakeShem.net podcast proudly presented by Viewlorium. Alternative movies, alternative streaming, totally free at viewlorium.com.
Welcome to Rewind and Digress, where we hit pause on the now and track back to one of our favourite films, throw a few bucks in, kick some ass, get our asses kicked, hit continue, kick some ass, and clock it.
They're tough.
Save some for me.
They're magical.
Shadow Demon, you shall not pass.
They're dedicated.
Welcome to the Power Core.
They're fast. They're the greatest heroes to ever fight for justice.
All right, so where's the on button?
They're the only hope for a new world. Double Dragon.
I'm Jared and I'm here with Glenn, we're FakeShem.net, and on this episode, we're rewinding back to 1994 to discuss one of the pioneering video game to film adaptations, Double Dragon, on its 25th birthday. This is a reoccurring theme, man. Like, we keep doing anniversary episodes. I mean, someone might listen to this next year, sure, and it's no longer the anniversary of the film as such.
It's a time capsule.
Yeah, I don't know, this has not been intentional by any stretch, but the
One
last
day
few
this
films,
episode will have a 25th anniversary.
Yeah. This year right now. Or
No, the podcast itself.
oh, this podcast. Oh my god, yeah. Jeez, that's a terrifying thought, dude. We're gonna be really old by that point in time.
We'll be up to episode 30.
We'll be in our 60s, man. Wow. That'll be interesting. All right, so yeah, look, it might be a bit of a surprise party because aside from you and I don't think anyone else is going to come along and celebrate Double Dragon's 25th birthday with us.
Well, can I take, I want to just, in addressing that, you use the word pioneering.
Well, I say the only reason I say pioneering, and I will touch on it, is that prior to this picture, there had only been one other video game to film adaptation.
Was that Mario Brothers?
That was Mario Brothers. God, and I'll lay waste to that pretty soon. But yeah, this film came ahead of Street Fighter, at least theatrically in the US. Not so much in Australia, but I think the theatrical success of Street Fighter might have ensured that Double Dragon did get a release in Australian cinemas. Because that's the thing, this film opened in the States in, I think it was, oh god, now this is testing my memory. I think it was like probably around July. No, it must have been later. No, I think it was about July. It was during the summer period of 1994, but then it didn't release in Australia until about August of 95. And I think the part of the reason was the success of Street Fighter, but I also think that Scott Wolf had finally become a bit of, a name, because when the film opened in the States, at that point, Party of Five had not aired.
Yep.
But by this point, Party of Five had already, been in its
You
first
could put him on a
season. He's a bit of a heartthrob. Yeah. This is a
Should
breakout
poster.
role for Scott Wolf, but I don't even want to jump ahead. What I'll do is I want to give the people that are listening a bit of backstory on the film, in case they've never seen Double Dragon, or in case they haven't watched Double Dragon for, say, 25 years? This is a story of Double Dragon. It's set in the future. 2007. So it wasn't. It's been in the past now, obviously, but at that point in time, it was 13 years into the future. And what remains of LA, which is now known as New Angeles, a city ravaged by earthquakes, tidal waves, and vicious gangs. The evil tycoon Kogashuka is obsessed with finding two halves of the talisman known as the Double Dragon, which will give him awesome mystical powers. Two teenage brothers, Jimmy and Billy Lee, find themselves in the possession of the amulet, missing half, thrusting them into the adventure of their lives, and with the help of Maria and her vigilante group, the Power Corps, Jimmy and Billy must summon all of their courage, resourcefulness, and martial arts skills to stop the villain's malevolent plan. It's pretty detailed.
It's very detailed.
And I mean, from the synopsis, you can pretty much tell it's not going to stick strictly to the video game. It's going to kind of forge its own identity. When was the first time you saw Double Dragon? Did you see it theatrically?
No, I didn't. Just home entertainment
It was
release.
just me and my mate.
And I thought it was an absolute piece of shit.
Really?
Thought it was
From the
an absolute
get-go?
fucking turd of a film, and I've watched it for the second time recently.
And you opened your eyes and you realised it's an undiscovered
and
gem.
it is a glorious piece of shit.
It is a glorious piece of shit.
It is as if John Carpenter were directing Saturday morning television.
Right.
That's what this is.
It's confused, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like the film kind of doesn't really have who's the audience? It's a bit all over the shop. It's not quite violent enough to be like, something for like late teens, 20-somethings. It's a bit family friendly.
Yeah.
It's
got the veneer of family friendly.
It does, definitely.
But a bit like what Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did in that first film was it took family friendly and took a dark spin on it. And put this sort of underlining element of, what's the word? I don't know what the word is, but it's got a really...
No, I'm sorry, you just said it before.
No. It's just dark underneath. But
yeah.
dude, I struggled with this one.
Wow, really?
I
And
really
it's
struggled
not
with
that
it.
long a
And
movie, too. It's only on 90-odd minutes.
It has got so many things that I like.
Definitely.
It's got that post-apocalyptic cityscape kind of environment.
Yep.
I love that. It's got cultural appropriation. I love that in films. Of
course. Yeah, it's got a lot of that.
I'm not allowed to, but I do.
Yeah.
Particularly the Kogashuku fucking character.
Yes.
But it just didn't work for me on any level.
Wow, right. No, fair enough. I thought you might have a soft spot for this one, but
you'd think so.
Seemingly not. I saw it at the movies and I really enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I remember seeing it pre-trailered on a bunch of other films at the time, and they'd use this kind of like classical music, then slightly remixed, and the Mortal Kombat trailer did it at a later point. And that already kind of sucked me in, and then I was just like, oh wow, Robert Patrick from Terminator 2, the T-1000's in it. I don't know if I would have been aware of Scott Wolf because I was watching Party of Five as a big Jennifer Love Hewitt fan.
At the time.
Yeah, and I was a massive fan of the Double Dragon games. I mean, they're no Street Fighter, but
Double Dragon 3 all the way, baby.
Double Dragon 3, what a game. But yeah, I had the first two on the NES. I played the third one in the arcades. I was a huge fan of it. So, I came into the film, and I think with lowered expectation because I'd seen Mario Brothers the year before and how far that deviated from, the game concept and just became its own sort of thing, which I've never really enjoyed and I've gone back and rewatched. Whereas Double Dragon, as soon as it came out on video, I rewatched it, loved it, and found myself, rewatching it over the years. Admittedly, I hadn't seen it for quite some time before.
I will
Blu-ray
take
came
Mario
out.
Brothers and Street Fighter over this any day.
No way! Oh my god!
Yes, way. I love Mario Brothers.
Yeah, I try, but I've never found a soft spot for it. I mean, and I'm not to blame John Leguizamo because I don't think he was terrible in that movie. It's the Pest, but I love Bob Hoskins. I love him in everything. Long Good Friday, Mona Lisa, Mermaids. No, not so much Mermaids. Was he in Mermaids?
Yeah,
he was in Mermaids. Buster, was he in Buster?
No.
Phil Collins.
Phil
Collins did the music, and did Phil Collins act in that as well? Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, I haven't seen Buster for a long time.
Okay.
What a soundtrack! Knockout soundtrack. Last Orders, of course. Yeah. All right. Yeah. No. Okay. So fair enough. Well, that's interesting.
But I'm with you for the ride, mate. I'm with you for the ride.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, jump on board. So
hey, it's got post-apocalyptic Mohawk punk, so that's cool too.
It does.
I'm going to throw this in. It's very Albert Pune.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I can see that. Look, this film, obviously, like I mentioned prior, I feel like it only got a chance in Australian cinemas off the back of the success of Street Fighter with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Kylie Minogue. But that was an infinitely bigger budgeted film. That was shot for like 35 mil. This film was shot for, I think, just under 7 mil, and it made maybe 2.5 mil.
Do you think the fact that they were never able to actually create a good poster for this one affected
I know,
it?
there's so many shitty posters for it.
They're all shit.
Switching around the logo. We'll go with the game logo, then we'll go with the new logo.
I've never seen a good poster for it. And
the
one that you've presented today on the Blu-ray is shitty. Like, there's nothing...
That's a theatrical poster.
There's no
US
good,
theatrical poster.
So you see that theatrical poster back when it was released. You see that on the cinema wall alongside all the other upcoming... Like, let's put it on the wall against Street Fighter.
Yeah. I mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme's on the poster of Street Fighter, and he's big and prominent.
The actual design, the composition, the style...
It's not inspiring, is it?
This looks like Three Ninjas Knuckle Down or...
It does. It does look like one of those Three Ninjas movies from the 90s,
and that looks like graffiti. Like, the writing looks like graffiti.
Yeah, that's not great title treatment. And this 3D sort of rendered double...
shit.
It is odd art. Admittedly, I don't know if I even saw a poster in the cinema foyer, but I had seen the trailer, and that was enough of a hook for me. I mean, I mentioned that the budget for Street Fighter was considerably larger than Double Dragon.
Yep.
Double Dragon was relatively insignificant in that regard. But the interesting thing too is, like, you can tell Double Dragon. There's a few scenes that are shot, on live locations, but the bulk of it's in sound stages.
Yep.
Whereas, like, Street Fighter, there is a lot of real environment stuff, and it was shot in exotic locations like Bangkok in Thailand and Queensland, Australia. That was another one. Whereas this was shot across, even though it's set in LA and a little bit was shot in LA. Most of it was shot in Ohio, I believe, which is odd in Cleveland. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I've just got such a soft spot for it. I think because for me, with Mario not delivering, and then for this kind of delivering a little, it meant a lot to me at the time, up until Mortal Kombat, which I thought was amazing. And still holds up. It's a lot of fun. Great cast as well. But I'm not digressing onto Mortal Kombat at this point in time. Oh. But I will digress pretty soon because I really want to talk about the fact, obviously, this game is one of the first films to be based off. This film is one of the first ones to be based off a video game. Obviously, that sort of set a trend throughout the 90s for a bunch of other movies as well. Mortal Kombat would soon follow, Street Fighter. They even did that Wing Commander movie with Mark Hamill. Do you remember that?
They did.
And Freddie Prinze Jr., I think, might have been in it as well.
Oh, or was it Matthew Lillard?
It might have been Matthew Lillard. I can interchange those two because they were often in the same films together.
Might have been both.
Could have been both. Could have been both. And I mean, obviously that in itself led into the 2000s, which was an insane period for video game to film adaptations. You had big things like Tomb Raider. You had a million films directed by Uwe Boll.
I was about to say the Uwe Boll thing.
The most guilty filmmaker of directing. Like, I think he just did a run of them, like House of the Dead, Blood Rain,
How
Postal.
he got his mitts on all of these properties at the time was beyond me.
idea.
Particularly after, in the public perception, the public eye, he kind of crashed. He burned. Like, he fucked up with all these franchises.
Yeah,
They kept letting him do them.
I don't know how it happened. Like, is he constantly finding like foreign investment, then shooting it somewhere in some Eastern European place?
And he would always manage to wrangle good talent.
I know. Or people that were kind of like on the fringe, like their career had sort of hit a point, like Christian Slater wasn't getting big roles at the time.
No, he had like Ben Kingsley would pop up in his films, Ray Liotta would pop up in his films, and Jason Statham, when he was at the peak of his career, popped up in his films. It's strange. But I was hoping that you'd bring that.
There was a huge cycle.
Yeah.
What would be your favourite sort of video game to movie kind of adaptation?
Far out. That's a great question because I'm not a fan of many.
Yeah, I know. It's not a really. It's not a beloved sort of field of adaptation.
Can you ring some off the top of your head? Like that might jog my memory?
Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, Doom, Silent Hill.
Silent Hill's good.
Silent Hill was good.
Yep.
Deviated considerably
Big
from,
time.
but that's
But I'm not a game player either.
Right. You didn't like Doom with Carl Urban and The Rock?
No.
I didn't mind that.
Not much.
I think a lot of people spoke shit about it, and I watched it 2 years later, and I was like, for what it wasn't bad, except when it broke into that really cheesy first-person shooting part, where it was just like, oh.
But I do think overall, Resident Evil holds up. I think that's possibly my favourite, just because I think it's got longevity. I think it's sort of it holds up for the most part. You have a random lame installment here and there, but I think the good ones really hold it up high.
I tapped out at it. I think the last one I saw was the Russell Mulcahy one that was set in Vegas.
That was my favourite one.
That was the third or the fourth, I think. Yeah, I haven't seen any since.
That was my favourite one.
Well, maybe I have.
And I think they maintained stamina for another 2 or 3.
Right.
Actually, pretty much all the way, and then the recent one they did like 8 years later or whatever.
It was like a 3D one or something, wasn't it?
That's where it kind of tanked for me.
Yeah, it is an odd sort of thing. And look, to be honest, the only two that really I dig are Double Dragon and Mortal Kombat, both based off fighting games. I mean, I wish they'd done another Street... Well, they did. They did another Street Fighter. It was like The Legend of Chun-Li or something.
But that was standalone.
Yeah, it was standalone, exactly. And they did all these anime, versions of the Street Fighter video game into film. But... yeah, I don't know. Street Fighter just didn't sort of work for me. I think there was a lot of promise.
Something I've never put much thought into is all the video game adaptations, because it's not
countless.
It's not my world, so I don't really think about it. But there's got to be others other than Resident Evil that really tickle me. But
well, I mean, Assassin's Creed was one of the most interesting ones recently. I haven't seen. I've never played the games, but it's like Michael Fassbender, who's in a period of his career where he's like on the up, and he goes and does that. I mean, everyone wants a paycheck, but I don't think anyone enjoyed that movie.
No, Warcraft.
You know what? I've never played Warcraft, but I did go see the
Fun movie.
I thought it was all right. I enjoyed it.
It was a very, very good foundation movie. It was a launching pad for potentially all these multi-stories.
Totally. I'm with you.
Could have been a great...
Didn't take itself too seriously either, which I was really concerned with, because I know the people that play the video game are very devout because it's very community-based and they're in it. And I was worried this film's going to take us too much. It's going to be like a B version of Lord of the Rings. But I went in and it was kind of funny and it just entertaining enough. Yeah, I enjoyed it. But
anything with a pre-existing fan base is going to run into that wall, It's going to be just maligned and criticised.
Any video games that you've loved that you would have liked to have seen transformed into a movie?
Oh, look.
I mean, is it a fate you want to wish upon one of your favorite video games? Really.
I'll tell you what, there is one or two I'd like to see. Let's think. Sounds weird, but I'd love to see Mario Kart adapted into a film.
Okay, yeah. Well, it could happen. I've seen Angry Birds, and I like that.
Dude, the way I think of it too, remember the movie last year, Tag?
Yes, I did enjoy that.
And that's a chase movie.
Yeah,
Can you imagine that if they were in, karts?
Are we talking live action or is it CGI?
Live action.
Live action. This is so bizarre. Okay, yeah, I'm with
live
you.
action, but, obviously you'd need a lot of CGI augmentation there.
Understandably, yeah,
But can you imagine, it's an unabashed adaptation of the game where it knows exactly what it is. So you've got humans, live action,
right,
driving these things, and suddenly each sort of act of the film is a different scenario. So you've got the jungle.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It lends itself to some good locations.
It doesn't need a story.
Yeah.
It just needs gags.
Okay.
It just needs gags.
I'm with you.
It's essentially, the game is a gag game. You've got bananas, you've got fucking all these things.
Your arsenal of unusual weapons.
If you executed it carefully, it would actually play out like Speed Racer.
I still haven't watched it.
Oh, you'd love Speed
I've seen the animated series, but I never saw the Wachowskis.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
Really, yeah.
That's the kind of live action I mean.
Right, okay, yeah, no, I'm curious. I would definitely be up for it. I'm a massive fan of the Super Mario Kart games. I've bought every Nintendo console that has ever been released. Home console, not like the portable gaming consoles. Although I've bought a few of those.
Yeah.
And pretty much the strength of buying every one of those consoles is because Mario Kart's being released on it.
Yeah.
I have bought the console for it. I've even got the
Sure.
Switch, the newest console. So,
GameCube.
you've got me day one at the cinema to go watch this movie. I'm calling in sick and going to see the 10:30 a.m. session on the Thursday it starts.
Oh, maybe I'll just make that my feature film debut when I direct something.
Oh, well, I'm with you, man. If you need a creative... you need someone to consult on it, because I played the games.
That reminded me, a massive guilty pleasure would be Rampage.
Oh, no, I did. Oh, yeah, that's another one I actually really enjoyed recently. I mean, look, the game... I don't even know how you can make a movie out of that game. It's such a basic concept. It's a single screen, and all you're doing is scaling buildings as a creature and bashing the living shit out of them.
And I think the critics of that one just really didn't embrace it from the get-go. Because it's a dumb movie.
It's dumb and it's fun.
It's shallow,
yeah.
but it's fun. It's
a lot
very
of fun.
Yeah.
And, and even just humanizing George and things like that. Yeah. They did some cool stuff with it. For what it was a better film than it deserved to be.
Totally.
A lot of fun. God, there was a lot of sexual innuendo in that movie too, which was weird. But, I dug it too. But here's a couple, if I were to say... some films that, I think people would be like, oh, they should definitely make a Legend of Zelda movie. And
totally.
I'm like, well, fuck it. There's a lot of those games. You can live through the games. I want to see a Mega Man movie. That would be awesome. Live-action Mega Man movie. A Metroid movie. I've loved the Metroid games. And Kid Icarus. I love that game on the NES, and I'm still waiting for them to do, a proper version on another NES console, not just a character in bloody Smash Brothers. Yeah, Digger. That'd be great. That'd be great. I mean, look, if they've done it with Angry Birds, any of these films can be made. And that said, I did enjoy the Angry Birds movie, and I'm looking forward to the sequel. I will not watch a trailer because all the best bits will be in it, and I'm happy to wait and pay good money to watch them on the big screen.
What about Pong?
Yeah. I don't know. That movie.
Did they ever do a Pac-Man movie? I'm talking
I
classic Atari.
I only know that, they did the animated series and stuff like that. But no, I don't think there's been a movie, an animated feature movie. Of course, Pixels. I actually really enjoyed Pixels too. I thought it was a hell of a lot of fun.
Same here.
That was probably one of the last big Adam Sandler theatrical releases. I mean, it was an ensemble kind of cast, but it was probably one of the bigger last films that he did. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I think that film's going to be one of those cult kind of movies.
Yeah, I'll return to that.
A lot of people really enjoyed it. Yeah, it copped a lot of shit. I mean, another big one that's just on the cards about to happen: Sonic the Hedgehog.
God!
That was going to be released in 2019, but it's been pushed to 2020 because the public were outraged that Sonic didn't look like Sonic from the video game, so they're going back and retweaking it, and they're releasing it on Valentine's Day 2020.
In fairness, it was a massive oversight.
Yeah, look, I didn't care too much. I don't know why. I think because I watched the trailer thinking, this is going to be shit. And then I watched it and I was like, this does definitely look kind of like shit, but it's the oddest piece of shit I've ever seen. This is the kind of piece of shit you'd see on a sidewalk, take a photo of and send it to a loved one and go, that's fucking weird. What do you think?
You get the impression too that they're not letting on everything they got.
They're holding back.
Very, very much because you only get that snippet of Jim Carrey in character at the end.
In character, yeah, totally.
It's that's interesting. There's going to be more of that. So how does that play into it?
Man, they must have paid that guy some considerable cash because, I mean, he's so invested in his art and the things he wants, projects he wants to be involved in and things. I don't know what brought
He's
him
a
back
weird
to want
cat.
to do it. He's such a weird cat. He's such a cool cat.
And
though.
his major comeback being that TV show Kidding.
Yeah, I
which
still haven't
was
watched that yet. Yeah,
Phenomenally good.
got to do it.
And then suddenly Sonic the Hedgehog.
I know, odd, isn't it? Like, because that was your opportunity to.
Well,
you know?
and he had prefaced his new trajectory on that Jerry Seinfeld riding in cars with comedians.
Right.
And he had said, like, I'm not doing that stuff anymore. This is my new thing. Like, I'm,
Yeah, of course, that's right. 'Cause
selective.
And he was doing his, his weird art,
New Age and all that
stuff.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you couldn't tell if he was joking half the time, whether he was serious.
It's almost, you feel like he's doing a Joaquin Phoenix. Like, it's like, he's talking about how reality isn't reality. We're not us.
Of course, because he's doing that stuff on like red carpets.
Yeah,
Getting
right.
asked a question and he just turns into this existential conversation.
And he'll say, well, was that even a question? Because what is this? And,
I know.
And
just turn it on its head.
So he's following that, and then, suddenly he pops up in Sonic the Hedgehog. It's just warning alarms go off. It's
He's definitely having the last laugh. There's no doubt about it.
Look, I love him though.
Oh, I've got all the time in the world for him. I've got all the time in the world for him. I'll watch him in anything.
How good was that documentary with the Andy Kaufman Man on the Moon one?
Watched it. I feel terrible. Like
man.
I know I've been dying to watch that too, and I haven't watched that either. Yeah,
That
I
was
probably rewatched something crap a million times.
One of the great documentaries of the last 5
Got to
years.
do it.
Yeah.
Did you feel instantly compelled to want to go back and watch Men in the Moon? The movie?
Well, Man on the Moon, actually, we should do that one day on a podcast.
That'd be
because
interesting,
that's a film that I have seen at least 20 times. Like when that came out on VHS, then DVD, I flogged it, man.
Yeah.
I know that film back to back. I could, recite it. If you started
Wow.
playing it, I could probably mouth it along. Yeah, and to get this insight into how he got into this character, incredible.
Yeah, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. Well, I'll definitely come back to that. Other adaptations that happened around that era, like no, they weren't all cinematic. There was a lot of cartoons happening. I think cartoons were the first to adopt these video game adaptation sort of stuff. You did have a Mario Brothers cartoon. You actually had two variations of
There's
Super
a live
Mario
action
Brothers
one
show.
too.
Well, yeah, it started off. It was like kind of wraparound. It'd be live action with
Winnie
them,
from
and
Wonder
they would
Years.
cut. Was she in it too?
Yeah,
Was she?
she
And
was
then
the
they would
main
cut
girl.
to the cartoon and cut back to the live action, and the song went a little bit like, okay, it's time to go to the Mario. Take one step and back again. Yeah. Anyway,
Oh, that was pretty good.
So there was that, and there was Captain N, and was it Captain N, the Game Master, which was like
Hang on, the Game Master.
the Game Master.
okay.
No,
Different game.
that's a different one.
Oh, okay.
This one was like pretty much felt like a Nintendo commissioned series. I mean, obviously they licensed the characters from Nintendo games, but it had like Simon Belmont from Castlevania, had Kid Icarus, it had like Metroid. I think it was Mother Brain. She was one of the villains in it. King Hippo from Punch-Out. It was a really weird ensemble of strange sort of Nintendo characters in an animated series. So that sort of stuff was happening pre this move to live action. So, I all for digression, and we will get back to Double Dragon at some point in time.
Yeah.
But growing up as a kid, what were you? Like a Nintendo, a Sega, or a PC kid?
Well, originally, I kind of got onto video games just because all the other kids were.
Right.
So I was very much originally into the Commodore 64.
Okay, yeah, old school,
and then Atari. I had like an Atari, and I love those, but they were very simple games that you didn't fanboy over. They were just
True.
sort of platform games.
I had an Intellivision, which was similar. It was very basic sort of graphics.
But I guess the first console I really invested in emotionally with was the original NES.
Oh, the NES,
Right,
absolutely.
But that was driven by movies like The Wizard.
Oh, of course, yep. The Fred Savage classic.
Yeah, and everyone at school was in on it. It was cool because the Power Glove, you had all these accessories that go with it. The Zapper for Duck
They had a
Hunt
little robot thing, Rob.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
I never got that.
I don't know anyone that actually ever had Rob.
So
I had a Power Glove.
There was a very brief time, pre-teens, maybe even 13, 14, where I was very much invested in it. I even have video footage of me unwrapping Christmas presents and getting Simpsons Aliens Attack, whatever it's
Bart
called.
versus the Space Mutants.
Yeah, that one.
How do I know that?
And Double Dragon 3.
Double Dragon 3 classic. Yeah.
Which they were the two that I played.
Double Dragon 3 is a really hard game to
couldn't
get
get past
on the
it's level 1.
A difficult
Right.
game, but it's also very hard to get on NES too. So if you still own that,
I do.
you can get very good coin for it. So if you're ever looking to sell it, you probably get somewhere upward of $100 to almost $200.
Fantastic.
For it.
Well,
Anyway.
I'm not looking to that. But anyway. And then like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Oh, I love that game.
Yeah, that was a good
Did you know
one.
they reissued it later
Yeah.
and they dropped the Mike Tyson? It was just called Punch Out, and they
Yeah.
took out all the Mike Tyson elements because of those allegations
Yeah,
and things like in the 90s. Not that we ever dwell on these things on these podcasts, but
that was That was pretty much the beginning and the end for me with consoles. I did go forward with the 64 only for Mario Kart's sake.
Yeah, of course.
But never really played many games on 64.
Right.
Went to GameCube because of Mario Kart.
Wow, you went GameCube too.
Yeah. Just because of Mario Kart.
Same, likewise. Yeah, I came back from the States and everyone was into PlayStation where I was like, fuck that, I'm going
and then
GameCube.
The only reason I got excited about the Wii was because it could play Mario Kart from the GameCube.
Yeah.
Right, so
because that backward compatibility.
So, now we don't need that clunky thing.
Yeah.
You, rest of the family, can play your Wii Sports. I'm just going to stick that micro disc in there.
And then have a crack at that.
Game. Yeah, but I can't say I'm a gamer.
What about in the arcade? Did you used to play any video games in the arcade back in the day?
Double Dragon 3.
Double Dragon 3, of course.
And that was, do you remember ages ago on a podcast I told you about almost my first job was a video store painting the shelves so I could get free hires?
Yeah.
That same video store had Double Dragon 3.
Wow.
Arcade. It was the only arcade game they had in this one.
Right.
So I used to play that, and I remember getting really pissed off because I was in the middle of a crucial point.
Yep.
And you know the celebrity Frankie J. Holden?
Yeah.
He waltzes in, bumps into me, and I die from him interacting with me.
Unforgivable.
Yeah, so that's my memory of Frankie J. Holden.
Unforgivable.
I know.
Oh, wow, there you go. Jesus. You should probably put that on Twitter. You could probably start a hashtag movement out of that.
Frankie.
My favourite arcade game was probably Capcom's Final Fight. Not that far different from Double Dragon 3. Side-scrolling beat 'em up. Bloody loved it. It was one of my favourites. I owned a bunch of consoles growing up. Like I was always a Nintendo loyalist, but I did have the odd Sega console along the track.
Ooh, can I just interject there?
Yeah, of course.
Speaking of Sega, I had a Sega Game Gear.
Oh yeah, the portable console.
Yes, which was cool because it was a TV as well.
Yeah, because it had like a
attachment.
Yeah. You could watch
with
TV
an aerial
on it.
and I used to watch that. But I used to play Mickey's House of Illusions.
Yes.
And Wonder Boy on that thing.
Wonder Boy's classic.
And Columns.
Columns is a classic.
I have all of those games and the Game Gear at home now, and it still works.
Holy shit, that's incredible. Yeah, I didn't know many people. There was only one friend whose older brother had a Game Gear, and we were never allowed to play
Everyone
it.
had a Game Boy.
Yeah.
And,
I had a Game Boy.
At that time, it was
Game
still
Boy was
black
cheaper,
and white,
I think,
but
than
it
the
was still
Game
black
Gear.
and white, right?
It totally was. It was dot matrix graphics.
Yeah, so then for me, I was like the cool kid because I came to school with this Game Gear, and then later on I bought the TV adapter, and it was like, back then, man, I got TV in my bag.
That's insane. Yeah, that's really cool, man. You did pretty well, dude. You did pretty well.
But for me, like even having had a video store that had games in it and all that, my mind instantly when I think video games and video stores was always Sega. Because the trailers always had the Sega
the ad at the start of videos that you would rent.
And they had a Sega section, but they never really had this early
Have you
days.
played every video game ever made?
Yeah, but they never had a Nintendo section until later.
It was a later thing,
64 was when that came along.
It's sort of weird, because the video stores didn't it's sort of strange. They were kind of like adopted the gaming thing, but the Sega one was really pushed into stores, I think, because they had some sort of tie with one of the major distributors at the time. Might have been like Sony or Columbia or someone to get them in there, and it was a later sort of thing getting the Nintendo.
I don't know if you can memorize it, but in my DVD setup where I keep everything, I've got like a little black shelf that I put all my Blu-rays on. It's got a light box on top.
Right.
It's a Sega light box.
I know.
Yeah.
How long has that been there?
That shelf is about 30 years old.
Wow.
And it was made for Sega, video store Sega section.
Dude.
Someone pulled the Sega decal off it. But I just kept the shelf, and the light box is still in there. So.
That'd probably be worth serious cash, dude. You're just sitting on like a ton of money at your house right now.
Yeah.
For everyone, Glenn's address is as follows. No, I'm just kidding. Little side story. I actually worked for Nintendo for about 2 years back in the day.
You're about the fourth person I've known that's worked for
Nintendo. Well, there you go.
Wow.
Weirdly enough, I worked there. It actually started off as a bit of a joke because my old man used to play video games as well. Like when I got the NES for Christmas in 1990. He got into it as well and was loving Mario, loving Metroid, getting into the games. So he followed it through with SNES and right up into the N64. And my mum had cut out like an advertisement in the paper, which was like for a games demonstrator for Nintendo, and then left it out for my dad as a joke. But I saw it and I was like, well, I had sort of like, I hadn't been playing games quite as much at that point in time. I becoming a teenager, was really interested in music and stuff like that. But I saw it and I was in my first year of uni and I was like, well, that sounds like a pretty easy and fun job. And went for it, got it, was getting paid like $13.50 an hour to demonstrate games, getting about 20 hours a week, work, which was perfect because it fitted in with uni really well. Plus, most of the time you'd be like prominently even in the city that you'd set up and you'd be doing like 7-8 hour shifts, just helping like people, showing them how to play the game, not doing any selling. All you're doing was demonstrating the game, showing them how to play it. And generally have one other person on with you, so you just end up hanging out with the other dude. Yeah. It was like pretty cool.
It's cool, man. Yeah.
The uncool thing about it was when the hours started drying up because the N64 was like pretty established. They didn't really need to push it much. Was that they would do like things in shopping centres that would have like the mascots from different things, like Crash Bandicoot from Sony would be there, and the real Dorothy the dinosaur from the Wiggles, because they would only have one suit, and they had one girl that did it, and she's the one that did it in the TV show and in the live stuff. So they had one Dorothy, and so she would be there, and then of course they had this ratty old bloody Mario costume, and this guy was the only guy that could seemingly fit in it, because I was very lanky and tall enough back in the day. And so then I would get stuck in that suit, getting paid $13.50 an hour, sweating balls in it, and getting hugged by children, pushed by teenagers. And generally the way they work these things with the professional mascots, they would do the thing and they'd get like breaks every 15 minutes or so, and they like take the head off because it gets hot in there. You have a drink of water, you sit down, then you get back out again. Well, Nintendo really weren't up for doing that, so I just end up doing it for like an hour, and then you go out and get to sit down for 10 minutes, have a drink of water, put the dirty costume on that stank of other people's sweat. And you go and do that for like 4 hours, and I was getting paid like $13.50, and that wasn't cash in hand, that was all taxed. And then you'd sit down next to Crash Bandicoot, who was like, some guy that'd been hired to wear the suit for the day or whatever. And he's getting paid $50 an hour. Yeah,
he's got a fan in there.
Yeah, I know, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's got like a modern suit, like it's a proper suit. And I'm like, oh man, what? You getting paid $50 an hour? I'm like, how much are you getting paid? And I said like $13.50 an hour. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, oh, don't feel too bad. Like, I don't know how much Dorothy's on, but needless to say, she's on, at least double of what I'm earning an hour. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. And and then so that wasn't great. But then I remember going into the office, them calling me into the office, and I thought, oh look, it's all over. It's all over. The hours are gone. This is the end. But no, they called me in to take my measurements for the Pokemon suit. It was for the Pikachu suit, because Pokemon was just about to break in Australia. It slowly had been breaking. And they were fitting me out for the Pikachu costume, and I quit like a week or two later before that suit had come back. Wow. Mate, I was like, no fucking way am I doing this anymore. This is not what I didn't sign up for this, so I'm not doing it. And that was the end of my tenure at Nintendo, but it was a beautiful, beautiful time there. I had a lot of fun, a lot of great memories.
We are Nintendo. We cannot be beaten. Are you? Beat ya! We are Nintendo.
Nintendo. It can't be beaten for real family entertainment.
Viewlorium is the place to stream cult movies for free. Like, I'm talking mutated sharks, megastorms, Ozploitation, low-budget indies, and shit tons of other stuff. Viewlorium boasts a huge selection of the good, the bad, and the weird in between. FakeChef.net uses their service. Guilty as charged. Be rad like them. Viewlorium. Alternative streaming. Visit viewlorium.com. Like, right now.
Did you know that Sega video games are available for rental from your local video store? Did you know that Sega Master Systems are also available for rental? Did you know that Sega leads the world in the development of new and exciting video games? Did you know that Sega games feature the sharp, clear video images, vibrant colors, and realistic sound you've been craving? Did you know that Sega games have challenges for players from beginners through to masters? Did you know that Sega has a range of titles including the well-known hits Afterburner and Double Dragon? Did you know that fantasy space games, fast action games, and realistic sports simulations are all in the rapidly expanding Sega range? Did you know that each month up to 10 hot new Sega releases will be available for rental? Sega, all kinds of games, all kinds of fun. Sega, let the games begin.
I went to high school with a guy that was the number one Nintendo player in the world.
Wow.
Not in Australia.
I remember them doing that stuff in the early 90s at Myers. They would have like the big competitions and that.
This kid went around Australia. He got ranked number one.
Wow.
And Nintendo offered him a job as a game tester. So it was then his job once he finished high school.
Yeah.
Because he was in year 12 at that time. I was in year 11. His job was then to just play new games and give opinion.
That's insane.
Incredible. I think he's still with Nintendo, but quite high up.
Oh, man, that's incredible. Because that's a weird thing. This was all in Queensland.
Yep.
So, I assume they had similar sort of outfits in other parts of Australia. But my boss at the time, my major boss, head of Nintendo Queensland, I won't mention her name, but many, many, many years later, I went to the launch of a Nintendo console at Nintendo's head office at Scoresby in Victoria. I can't remember. It must have been the Wii, I think. And it was through JB because I was working there at the time. And the head of Nintendo Australia was my old, head of Nintendo Queensland at the time. And I've got some great stories, not about her, but her criminal son selling stolen laptops. I bought one, didn't know it was stolen. But anyway, I've just told the story. But I've never said any names.
Yes, that's true.
Anyway, but yeah, so she was still with the company at that point. yeah. I'm sure you can just Google this information. But yeah, so that was a surprise seeing her. And now she'd moved into this other role, this major one. I don't think we actually spoke, so we didn't really get a moment. But there's some pretty cool stuff when you go to the Nintendo Head Office, because they had other consoles that never launched in Australia, but they developed and released in other territories, like the Virtual Boy, which was like this whole helmet thing you put on, and you only saw that, I think it was like red and black, and sort of like early sort of virtual reality, but on a home market level. But it was not portable, even though it was a Virtual Boy. It had to be plugged in and whatever.
Imagine
but stuff
Nintendo
like that
in Japan, what their head office would be like, and all the
it'd be
crazy shit.
Insane. But anyway, mass digression. But getting back to Double Dragon.
What? No, Double Dragon. Okay.
Double Dragon. Yeah, I thought we were just talking about Nintendo.
Yeah.
Double Dragon. Funnily enough, how this film kind of got off the ground was that the producer Don Murphy was playing Double Dragon 3 in an arcade.
Boom.
So there you go.
Okay.
He was playing the game and he thought to himself, look, two brothers, fighting alongside one another. Great title, Double Dragon. This would make a super movie, and so
Pussy pants, in fashion.
Like, they're going to be, one's going to be dressed in like a blue, and the other one's going to be in red, and Billy and Jimmy Lee.
One's Asian and the other one's American,
and we're not even going to explain that.
No,
we're going to try in the movie, maybe. Who knows? But anyway, he basically thought that's a fantastic idea, and he approached Trade West, who were the US distributor of the game, and so. And they went to, the developers of the game, Technos, in Japan, and somehow he managed to convince both parties that doing a film was a good idea. So they licensed it off, and he got Imperial Entertainment involved, who at that point had been doing a lot of martial arts type movies and whatnot. But, they were only really a production outfit. But they did a deal with Universal to get the film, to get the final financing and to get like a sort of screen strategy of how they would get it out to cinemas and everything. That Universal deal's never really been disclosed, but Imperial Entertainment had Jean-Claude Van Damme signed to like a 10-film contract, but they'd got him signed to that deal before he was really anything.
Yeah.
And so they'd agreed to give Universal one of those slots. And so Universal would get him to do Sudden Death at the time, I think it was. They signed him on to do that. And then Universal took care of getting the screens for Double Dragon, as well as took out whatever amount for, publicity and advertising for the film. So that's sort of how Double Dragon kind of got off the ground. But then I believe it kind of got stuck in the writing stage. That had two writers on board of the film. Paul Denny, who was responsible for a hefty amount of the 90s Batman animated series, which is undoubtedly the best incarnation of Batman. I think that's fantastic. And Neil Shusterman, I think his name was. And he did a lot of live action kids shows in the 90s, like Goosebumps and Animorphs. But now he's like a best-selling youth adult writer.
Yeah, right.
Best-selling. Written a ton of books.
The name is familiar.
But they're the guys that came on board initially. They wrote the story and they wrote the first few drafts of the script. And then eventually it just wasn't going anywhere. And then they brought in two other writers, Michael Davis and Peter Gould, and they're the guys who actually got the film to a point where they had a shooting script that could be made. And they're really sort of, they didn't fight the previous writers in terms of giving them the story by credit, because apparently in the writing world, when you make a film, you might have the story by who was the principal screenwriter, and then someone else is taking care of actually getting the script to screen. And they will fight over who gets what credits, and it all comes down to royalties at the end. Who's going to get the amount of money down the track as these things go on. But these two guys kind of came in and graciously said, no, they can keep the story credit. We're just going to work on the script, whatnot, and get it to a stage.
They knew the film wouldn't do any well.
And they were both really sort of young, aspiring writers. I mean, Michael Davis, he at that point, he actually went on to write and direct that film Shoot 'Em Up with Clive Owen that was released in the mid-2000s. But prior to that, he had been writing a ton of movies for Charlie Band.
There you go.
But the Charlie Band stuff he was writing with the kids' films, like that Pre-Hysteria, and I think...
Well, it's not a far leap from this one.
He'd done 3 of them. So, but yeah, he'd done sort of films like that.
Ghost Town.
He didn't do Ghost Town, but I think he did Jack and the Beanstalk or Jack and the Giant Bean. I can't remember what that one was. But the other guy, this is the guy that matters. Look, I'm not discrediting Michael Davis. Don't. I didn't mean to insult him. But Peter Gould, right? He not only wrote episodes for Breaking Bad, but he was the co-creator of Better Call Saul.
Ah, well, he does matter.
So
then.
that is a massive, massive thing. And when you see the two guys interviewed on any of the special feature stuff out there, they're great because they've got such a really good chemistry on screen and having a laugh about things and, you know, talking candidly about it. And, you know, they're both, I mean, well, Peter Gould's a tremendous talent.
Yeah.
And, you know, Michael Davis done some cool things. But yeah, they don't mind sort of, you know, picking up on their own errors, but also identifying what part of the writing was not necessarily the writing of the writers, but the director and them shooting the film. And there's even an in-joke in the film, right? There's an in-joke because they had this whole thing where they wanted to explain, or they had to explain some way, why Robert Patrick was playing, you know, this character of Asian heritage.
Yep.
Cougar... What's his name? Cougar
Shuko or whatever.
Yeah.
Koga Shuko.
And so they hadn't written it. They said what we should do is do this part where, you know, his character's like surname's Geiss or Geissman because, you know, Geiss is German for ghost. And so like he's like the ghost. And anyway, and then he adopts this name sort of thing, whatever. Anyway, he was laughed at, you know, they were laughed out about it. And then the filmmakers did put this line in when he walks in and addresses the fact. He's like, you know, I think someone says to him, you know, Geissman, and he goes, not anymore, you know, not Victor Geissman, I'm, you know, Cougar Shuko.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to party with Victor Geissman or something like that. And so they threw it in as like an insult to the writers. And so then in the writer's story, they're like, why did you waste all the time on this gag that means nothing to anyone outside of the production?
Yeah.
There's really just a funny insult, but yeah. But
Man.
I've always liked that scene. Like,
not
I don't know,
bad.
because it's weird. It's just a bit of fun.
They should have given him like a Beverly Hills Ninja backstory where he's like some white guy that's been adopted, found in a basket by the river.
Yeah, like a not lonely guy, the jerk. He's like the jerk sort of thing. But yeah, Better Call Saul. I just wanted to touch on Better Call Saul because there's nothing better than digressing and talking about Bob Odenkirk.
Boom.
Bob Odenkirk, one of my all-time favorite comic actors, and what an astonishing talent. Did you ever watch Mr. Show in the 90s?
Oh, of course I did.
Mr. Show, HBO classic
Is that with
series.
David Cross?
Yes, absolutely. Led into the incredible spin-off, the movie Run, Ronnie, Run.
Yes.
Which I think everybody needs to see.
Now, I have not watched that in a long time.
I know.
I remember how funny it was.
I've got to watch it again. Like I did watch it. I remember when I first saw it, because I was a massive fan of Mr. Show, and I'd watched a bootleg of it. I think Stumpy, Andrew Leavold, had a bootleg of the movie, and I was like, this was maybe a year ahead of the film coming out on video or DVD. And just watching it and falling. I've always been a massive fan of David Cross as well. But in terms of talent, I think, you know, Bob Odenkirk's he's an exceptional talent. Like, 'cause he's a very funny writer, performer, and if anything, Better Call Saul's proven that he's an incredible dramatic actor.
Bloody Oath, even Fargo.
Oh, Fargo, yeah, of course. Yeah, the TV series. He was
I'd seen Fargo before I watched Breaking Bad.
Right.
And so, like, that was my sort of intro. I mean, I knew him already.
Yeah.
That was my intro into him as a dramatic actor.
Right, yeah,
and I thought he was just so good.
Nailed it.
He was in Wayne's World. Is it 2 or 1?
Maybe 2, because I feel like I've watched
you know
one
the two
a
nerds
lot.
go, Wayne's World. We're your biggest fans.
Oh, I can't remember now. It's
Yeah.
been a long time since I've watched either, but I feel like I didn't only watch Wayne's World a few years ago.
Yeah, remember they're backstage and these two fans, you know.
Right, yeah. Must be number 2, because then they put on the
Yeah.
massive rock show in the desert in number 2.
Yeah.
Is that because they're trying to get the loan to put on that rock show? Might be number 2, which I haven't seen as many times, but is a really good sequel.
Yes. Great sequel.
I think it's an incredible sequel. Yeah.
Even though Penelope Spheres got shafted after that one.
Same.
Anyway.
Shame.
But yes, no. Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, and the director behind this film is James Yukich. He's the director behind Double Dragon, but you may know him from his prior work. Similar to a director we've covered on another episode of Rad, is the director of Mystery Men. This director also only ever directed one feature.
Oh, wow.
But this guy wasn't a popular commercial director. He was a popular music video director. So you might know him for having directed videos like David Bowie's Modern Love, Iron Maiden's Aces High, Phil Collins, he comes up again with One More Night, Go West's The King of Wishful Thinking. The list goes on. But yeah, this was his one and only feature film. And there's not a lot of info or interviews with him talking about it. So he doesn't participate in the special features on any of the Blu-ray releases.
This was an era where they were plucking music video directors out to make feature films. And it was a very big gamble. Like it was hit and miss. You had those like Russell Mulcahy that came along and just sort of nailed it.
That could transition.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then you got some that the transition was very, very harsh. Like it was,
You're lucky if you had a career to go back.
You watch Double Dragon and it's a music video.
Yeah, undoubtedly. It's colourful.
So he's got that.
Fast,
he knows how to put colours on the screen.
Yeah.
He knows what to do with the camera, but he doesn't know how to tell a story.
No. I mean, it is such a convoluted sort of plot. Like it is. It's just, there's way too much.
For
a video game, it had a very simple premise. Like, I don't know if the listeners have ever played Double Dragon, but let's just go back to the very first incarnation of Double Dragon. It's two brothers. One of their girlfriends is kidnapped, and the two brothers have to go and rescue her.
Yep.
It's a simple, timeless type of tale. That's exactly what it could have been. It was an era that this film came out where it wasn't like, oh no, we need to have strong female characters. Although they do. They've got Alyssa Milano in the movie, and it's a very strong
a bit of
character. But
a few things to say about that.
About her in this film. This was for her. This was like a real kind of like
first Hollywood.
Yeah, outside of Who's the Boss.
Has she done?
Who's the boss
at that point too?
No, she hadn't. She hadn't done Embrace of the Vampire. That was the following year as well.
Yeah,
so she'd basically done Who's the Boss for like 8 years.
Yep.
She'd wrapped that maybe 92 or so.
Yep.
And so she would have pretty much wrapped that, gone into this, and this was like the first kind of signature film to.
She was a bit of a badass in this one, I've got to say.
Yeah.
But interesting, like, in today's world, she's leading this movement of Me Too and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Yet in Double Dragon, she's getting perved on, upskirted.
She's being objectified.
But she's not objecting to it. Like, she's just...
No.
It just is happening.
Around her.
And she kind of knows it, but doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, context is everything, but I find that quite amusing. But,
it is, yeah. It's interesting.
When you look at where she's at now.
I mean, the other weird thing, I know this is... I mean, this is what this podcast is about, digression, is the haircut on her. How unappealing.
She wears a wig and not a wig. Like, she goes between the two.
Yeah, because then she's got the very short bleached blonde hair, like
But
Johnny Lee Miller sort of train-spotting hair. I know it was, because like, look at Angelina Jolie in Hackers. She had this
Shirley
very
Manson,
short kind of hair as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very unusual. But anyway, other cast. Scott Wolf. We mentioned that obviously...
He's a terrible actor.
I love Scott Wolf, though.
No.
He's not a great actor, but I think
actor.
he just has an appeal. He just seems like a really lovely guy.
He has no appeal.
Oh, I don't know. I like him.
We're going to have to
and he
agree
looks
to
like
disagree.
He has not aged. He's forever, young.
No, he's just plastic.
I like him.
He's plastic.
Oh, I
maybe
love him.
if he'd gone into
I just wish
Smallville territory, he might have...
I wish he'd done something like really good.
Well, he would have been good in Smallville.
But what's that?
As Superman in Smallville, he would have been great.
Yeah, forever small. But no, I've always had a soft spot for him. He came to this film just, the usual way of getting it. He had no prior martial arts experience, prior to doing the film.
Oh, damn.
Strange.
Had no idea.
Strange. First major role for him, because he did this prior to Party of Five. Prior to this, he'd only done a handful of TV shows and uncredited spots in things and that. There was a film, actually. He did two features prior to this. The two features he's done prior to this, I have never heard of.
Okay.
One was Teenage Bonnie and Klepto Clyde. He played Clyde.
That sounds
never
amazing.
heard of it. I know the poster does not look appealing.
Okay.
But the other one was the Skid Kid in '91.
That sounds amazing too.
Which he's not even credited on the poster.
Is it like a BMX Bandit type of film?
I think it's like some sort of like race car or race kart sort of film. Maybe it's the precursor for the Mario Kart movie. But it's got his siblings, Gary and Jessica Wolf, who at some time were actors as well. Jessica Wolf's only been in like two things, but they're both credited on the poster.
Pack of wolves.
The Pack of Wolves. Better title. Anyway, odd. I've never heard or seen that film. Now, the next actor, can I throw it to you? Can you talk about, because this is the guy that you're probably better versed in
Mark
than I am.
Dacascos?
Yeah.
Okay, well...
He plays Billy's brother, by the way, Jimmy.
Yeah, that's right.
Not Slippin' Jimmy, just Jimmy.
Yeah, well, most recently, he's sort of had a bit of a renaissance, a resurrection with John Wick 3.
As Zero. He was insane.
Yeah, he's
unstoppable
phenomenal in it.
So good.
Prior to that, most millennials might recognise him as the MC on American Iron Chef.
Yeah, he's been doing it for like 15 or...
He's quite good at it.
A long time. I didn't even know... I didn't know that until recently. I had no idea. I looked at... And then I had to watch some video on YouTube, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
He came to most people's attention through the Crow Stairway to Heaven TV show. That's where he first sort of crossed my radar. I'd seen him before, but that's where I knew his name from.
Right.
But some movies to his name. American Samurai. He did Crying Freeman.
Oh, yeah, the adaptation of the manga.
Yeah, that's right. Kickboxer 5, he took over from Sasha Mitchell.
Oh, really? Did he
yes,
really?
He's the main star in Kickboxer 5.
Wow.
Matt Reeves.
Right.
Who I've written that character into one of my scripts.
Ah, yeah,
I love it. He did the movie Sabotage, which I think was really good.
Is that the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No.
No, okay.
No, this is like it came around the same time as Sniper, but was overshadowed by Sniper, but they're similar kind of films.
Right, okay.
Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is
big film.
adding a bit of credibility to his
Absolutely.
resume. Cradle to the Grave was that Steven Seagal?
Yeah, I thought it was, and one of the DMX or something like that, or was it? Or?
That might be Exit Wounds.
Exit Wounds.
Anyway, Cradle to the Grave.
Oh, Jet Li? Jet Li was in that one?
That was Jet Li, yes.
Jet Li, okay.
But Dacascos, I'm pretty sure, was in that as well.
Yeah.
And then sort of when he fell off the grid, he popped up in that Asylum title, I Am Omega.
Oh, of course, that was in the late 90s. Yeah.
No, that was just after I Am Legend with Will Smith.
Oh, right, okay.
So the Asylum, the mockbuster.
Yeah.
So they did I Am Omega, which I Am Legend is kind of like a redo of Omega Man.
Right.
So they called it I Am Omega.
Okay, makes sense.
So that's just sort of some of the films he's done. He's done a lot of poxy stuff in between.
He also played Kung Lao in the TV. Actually, it was done for the internet webisode adaptation of Mortal Kombat. They did Mortal Kombat Legacy, which is like a origin.
Seen that. Yeah.
I've not seen it
either.
either.
I do know the one.
Ben's a big fan. A guy I work with, Ben, he loves it. But yeah, it's like a origin story for all the characters leading up to Mortal Kombat. Yeah. So he was in that. So he's done another video game to movie.
I love the
kind
guy.
of
I think he's great. I think he's been underutilized through most of his career. I don't think he's ever had an opportunity to shine. Yeah. And I do think Kickboxer 5 is probably my favourite of what he's done.
Right.
But it's a number 5. It's never going to be like something great. It's a direct-to-video sequel to an already flailing kind of franchise.
Of course.
But I think that movie in and of itself stands on its own. It's worth a look if you like, cheesy DTV action.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I should definitely check it out.
It is a direct sequel in that it references the previous ones and, he picks up the legacy, but it also stands alone in that legacy doesn't particularly matter to what he's doing.
Okay. Oh, no, cool. I'll definitely have to track that one down at some point.
Maybe we'll do it on a Kickboxer franchise episode.
Jesus, that would be something. How many films do they make? Because they're still making them, aren't they?
Well, now we've got the new franchise.
Yeah, there's been 2 of them so far, yeah?
Yeah, the
Renegade or something, and then another one's just
Retaliation
come out.
or Retaliation,
yeah.
So there were 5 in the original series, now the new ones.
Okay, so only 7, really.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Another interesting fact, though, Alyssa Milano and Scott Wolf, they met on this film and they had a relationship, ended up getting engaged. They're no longer with one another. But Scott Wolf, I think they still remain sort of friends about it. But yeah, interesting that Double Dragon was the film that would set them together. Robert Patrick. We mentioned him earlier, T-1000. No, he's... Oh, really?
Terrible.
I think he's great in this movie. I actually think I appreciate him in this movie more now than I ever did before. I think he's kind of charismatic and charming.
I've always had a problem with him, though. So this is my...
He's never done, like, a great deal of great movies.
The only thing I've actually loved him in, and actually really loved him in, was From Dusk Till Dawn 2.
Oh, yes. Yeah. No, I'm not fond of that. The number 2 was Blood Money, Texas Blood Money, or was The Hangman's Daughter?
I love that. No, it's Blood Money.
Texas Blood Money.
I love it.
Yeah, right.
I love that film. It's
you've got
Scott Spiegel.
Scott Spiegel did it. He's got all the crazy shots in it.
And before, he became Mr. Monster, Weinstein actually said that was his favourite Dimension sequel.
Wow.
Or Dimension title.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's interesting, yeah. Oh, good old Robert Patrick. Got a lot of time for him. Yeah, I like him. I think he's kind of cool in this film. I'd party with him. Definitely. Yeah, I like him. I mean, I've always had a soft spot for him. I mean, he's never done anything outside of Terminator 2 for me that's been great, but I always liked how he's always there to do a gag. Like, Wayne's World or Last Action Hero. He'll come back and he'll do the gag.
All self-referential.
Yeah, totally. I actually never saw the season of X-Files when he took over.
He was quite good at that.
I'll
give him credit
things.
there. But, David Duchovny's not exactly big shoes to fill.
Now, there's cameo... No, well, poor old... I've got a soft spot for him, too. I fucking love him. I really love him in Larry Sanders. I think he's amazing when he plays himself. A lot of cameos, dude. A lot of cameos?
Well, I'm hoping you bring up one particular person.
Is it an actor from Godfather Part 3?
No.
George Hamilton?
No, but...
Is it Wheel of Fortune US's Vanna White?
No.
No, Vanna White? Michael Berryman.
No, but he's in it.
Oh, my God. How can it not be one of those 3?
Even better than that, dude.
Okay, who?
Al Leong.
Oh.
You're like, what?
Who?
Al Leong. Well, he played Genghis Khan in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Right, okay.
He was in Die Hard.
Yep.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Right, yeah.
Lethal Weapon.
Yep.
Action Jackson. They Live.
Jesus.
Cage,
Yep.
Dark Angel, Rapid Fire, Showdown Little Tokyo. He was the tokenistic, stereotypical Asian guy with the long hair and that mustache.
And the dirty mustache.
Absolute fucking legend.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go. Oh, well, that's good. So we've covered a whole lot of cameos there.
Well, that's about it for me. Like with this movie, the fact that he's in it is the best part.
So I dare say, if we were to talk favourite scenes, you're going to say any scenes he's in.
Pretty much.
Yeah, right.
He's that henchman that everyone loves.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I will mention my favourite scene. Which is not really much of a scene, but it's where
there's no good scenes in this.
It's a weird movie. There's not like there's no standout scenes, but there are some good moments. And this is, I will call this more a moment than a scene because it's very short. When Michael Berryman's fighting, Robert Patrick, and Robert Patrick's gone into the shadowy sort of form and he's strangling Michael Berryman. I quite like that. I also like at the end of the film when Jimmy enters Robert Patrick or Koga Sugar's body and makes him slap himself, a little bit of slapstick humor.
Hilarious, mate.
And then he's like, wants to, pay the cops, make a donation. Then he asks for his check back. Oh my God, the comedy is legendary. I actually think there's some good lines in this movie, though. I do like, there's some good lines. I've got a massive soft spot. I didn't know you had such strong disdain for Double Dragon.
I like the cityscapes at the start that show you the post-apocalyptic ruins.
Yeah. Do you like
that's been done 100 times?
The smaller actor who's sort of like got the jack there and he's kind of pumping the ceiling of the building. So I
don't remember.
I know it's such a throwaway bit, but it's in the trailer. And the writers thought it was such a cheap gag. They actually said that the director. They said it's a reoccurring motif because he's had smaller actors in his videos.
I made a sandwich while I was watching, and
you must have missed the best bits.
I must have.
I hope it was a good sandwich.
No, I just if Al was on, I was there.
Oh no, that's fair enough. So look, I think it's probably time to wrap up. We don't have much more to say except that
we spent too long on it.
Yeah, well, we didn't talk about Double Dragon too much.
We talked about Nintendo for a lot.
We did, and that was fantastic. I had a great conversation about that. If you do want to watch Double Dragon again, you can probably check it out on Amazon Prime on YouTube. If you've never seen Double Dragon, you should definitely check it out on Prime or YouTube. If you've seen it and you want to immerse yourself in all the Double Dragon glory that you can, MVD have put out a masterful Blu-ray release. It's got like a 67-minute documentary on the making of the film with a lot of the key players. The director doesn't talk about it, Melissa Milano doesn't, but everybody else does. There's a great little featurette with the producer, because the producer, Don Murphy, he did like a handful of films. He was one of the producers on Natural Born Killers. These two films he did around the same time. Yeah,
Don Murphy's huge.
And then he went on to obviously do the Transformers.
Was it Don Murphy and Jerry Bruckheimer?
No, that's Don Simpson.
Oh, okay.
Don Simpson. No, Don Murphy.
That's true.
But Jerry Bruckheimer, he's passed, hasn't he? No. Yes, he has.
Well, no,
but Michael Bay directed a lot of those films that they produced.
That's right.
And Michael Bay also directed Transformers, so we're bringing it in.
Transformers
but yeah, he's done a ton of films. He did produce Permanent Record with Ben Stiller, which I really like. The film about the writer. Permanent Midnight. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, no, I love that movie.
That's a great film.
Yeah, really cool film. Really underrated.
About that before on the podcast.
Such a great movie.
Yeah.
Such a great movie. But yeah, so if you're into Double Dragon, check out the Blu-ray. It's got all those aforementioned features. It's even got the pilot for the animated series and some trailers. It's got some stuff that says behind the scenes featurette, right? I put it on. It's just raw behind the scenes footage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not a featurette. It has not been cut together. But here's something I did like about, the material on the Blu-ray is terrific. There's lots of good stuff. The editing of the special features wasn't perfect. Look, that's just, I do some of that stuff in my spare time. So, I've got a certain level. And so I picked these things apart. But what I found funny was that they'd used library music from Final Cut.
Wow.
So, and they'd chosen the library music that goes, say, 57 seconds and just looped it at points.
Loop it, yeah.
And it's the one that you'd use for a news broadcast sort of intro. So it was really ill-fitting. And
worst.
You just hear it every now and again. Not
fitting.
again.
It's fitting, mate. It's fitting.
Oh, that's sad.
And look,
it's heartbreaking. I would have loved to have worked on this Double Dragon release, I'll tell you that much.
If you do import the Blu-ray, just for curiosity's sake, I'm sure Cash Converters will give you $2 for it when you're done.
Yeah, I think you'll never want to part with it. It's got a fold-out poster, a slipcase. It's got everything. Wow. You got it, everything. Look, I guess that kind of wraps it. I do want to thank you for being a good sport and watching Double Dragon again. And also want to shout out to the Screaming Meanies for providing our intro, outro music. You should definitely check out his stuff. It's up on Bandcamp. He's killer. And yeah, I actually like to see him rescore Double Dragon. I didn't talk about the score for Double Dragon because it wasn't
that's why.
Didn't stick out. Yeah. I mean, for a film that's directed by a music video director, it doesn't have very good music in it.
The intro music to this podcast is perfect for it.
Yes. Retro. Totally. It fits the video game mold perfectly. Thanks again, Glenn.
No worries.